evening, everyone. My name is Munjal. I am speaking on this beautiful evening of New England. I'm here with my Miss Bharat New England co-director, Mrs. Raju Singlaji. Hello, Raju
Hey,
ji.
good evening, everyone.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Very excited about this new platform that we are bringing in. And
Mhm.
you want to talk about it?
Yeah, so we are very excited. Part of growth is taking it forward and paying it forward, and I'm very excited that My Dreams Entertainment platform has taken upon themselves to move it forward with our youth club. So we now have a full-blown youth group, and we are very excited to introduce our brand ambassador, Neeharika Munjal. She is our New England Youth Director. Yay, Neeharika!
Hi, thank you so much for having me on board, and I'm very happy to be part of this team as well too.
It
We are
gives us
very,
so
very
much.
excited.
Yep, it gives us so much pride and pleasure to bring you on board, and lots and lots of good luck.
Thank
And
you.
Yeah, Niharika. So we are very excited. We know you have achieved a lot in your life, and you are an achiever through and through. I would want you to introduce yourself and tell us our audience what.
Yeah,
Tell us about yourself a little bit.
yeah. So I'm a program manager at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center in Boston. I graduated Boston University in 3.5 years with a major in health sciences and a minor in business administration and management. Recently, I just started an organization called Young Indian Professionals of New England, which is a networking platform meant for young Indian professionals in the New England area to network with each other and to also stay in touch with their culture as well. In less than 3 months, I have gained over 650 members on Facebook and 200 plus members on Instagram. I am also part of the Healthcare Businesswomen of America Boston chapter and also in their global board in their affinity group called Tomorrow's Executives. And I am very happy to be part of the My Dream Entertainment as a brand youth ambassador. In my team, I have Meghna Chhabra. Do you want to introduce yourself, Meghna?
For sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Meghna, and thank you, Neeharika, for having me on your team. I'm from Watertown, Massachusetts, and I'm actually a junior at Boston University, majoring in business administration with the concentration in accounting. I'm currently on track to graduate a little bit early in December of 2023. And currently, I am working an internship at Global Partners as a tax accounting intern, and I also intern for Boston University as well.
Great, we're so grateful to have you on board, Meghna. Next, we have Driti. Do you want to introduce yourself, Driti?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Driti. I'm so happy to be part of this program. I'm really excited about it. I am going to be a fourth year at Northeastern where I'm double majoring in neuroscience and English. I'm on track to graduate in 5 years, and I have also worked at the Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. So that is my background.
Great,
Awesome.
we're so happy to have both you and Meghna on board on the My Dream Entertainment youth group as well.
Awesome.
Thank you for
Awesome.
having us.
Thank you. We welcome you all. It's a great army of achievers. We really look forward to hear from you. And I want to know from you, Niharika, what are your plans? How do you want to take this platform forward? And I know you have listed down a lot of topics. So you want to talk about what are we going to discuss in the next few weeks, and what are we discussing tonight?
Yeah, so the essential purpose of this talk show is to bring awareness to issues that are not addressed in today's culture, also to educate people on various discussions that are important to the youth of Indian culture, and also to empower the youth to help others feel empowered and inspired to make a change for the future. We obviously know that you all have brought the Indian community to where it was today, but we as a youth feel like we should have the honor and privilege to take it forward to next levels. So that is why we created this platform.
very good.
So
Very nice.
today's topic is navigating Indian culture as an American-born Indian, and I wanted to ask Mukta Auntie and Raju Auntie how their experiences was to raise the beautiful youth in America as an Indian.
You want to
Raj?
go first, Mukta?
You go first. I know you have raised some amazing, young professionals. So you have a lot more experience, Rajuji. Why don't you go ahead?
I think it's a challenge in a way that you're trying to bring two cultures together. But I also feel like you have to give them a break. You have to take it easy because the kids have too much pressure. They see a different culture at home, and then they go to their peers and they're seeing a totally different environment. And I think to some extent we overrate our Indian values. I always feel like, we left India in 90s or 80s, and the Indian values have changed over the time. The Indian millennials are much more westernized you know than what we think. They're much more westernized and actually doing much more better than um, kids here. So I think we have to understand that things have changed back in India too. Keep the culture together, teach them good values at home. They should always know where they come from. It's very important. It's very important that they realize that they come from a very rich cultural heritage or whatever. They should always respect their values, but at the same time, we should give them some break. We should, let them blend in. I think that's the word I'm looking for. That you have to let them blend both the cultures together and let them make their own choices. Can't force them to do certain things, but let them make their choices. Give them the options, give them the right values at home, and then let them choose. Because anything done by force is not going to last.
True.
So I think that's what I've learned. First time when my son said, "I don't want to do this," it was like, "Oh, really?" This is not the Indian kids do, right? Because our parents tell us and we do what we're told, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to learn to accept that also, that the kids these days are very bright. They have a mind of their own. They're much more ahead in technology, in learning from where we came from. So they are much more advanced. So I think we have to respect that. We have to always listen to them. That's what my younger one always says. Listen to me, mom, and I'm saying something, and then you tell me whether it's right or wrong. And I think that's very important, that I learned from him that, yes, instead of me telling him what to do, listen to their views, and then we can discuss it. So I think there's no right or wrong, but I think everybody learns as they raise their kids. And, I don't think there's a set pattern of things that you should do or I should do, and then we can be a successful mom. And there are no more tiger moms. So that concept is gone long ago. And I think now you have to be friends with your kids. I think you need to listen to them, learn things from them too. Don't think that you are the teachers. You need to teach them, and you need to learn from them.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Definitely. I would just say, I think just add on to, my kids are still young. I'm also learning, as I am learning from, a lot of Indian parents who have grown their kids here. So there's a lot of learning for me as well. But one thing that I have found that, I want them to respect my culture, but I cannot force it on them. So I have to find that balance, that they come to appreciate the culture where we come from. But sometimes they had a hard time understanding that why do we need to learn Hindi language, right? Why do I need to go to a Hindi school? It's very hard. But when you tell them that this is something that you would want to talk to your grandparents, so maybe there is a language barrier there. So maybe if you want to have a more clear communication with them, you should try to do it. So with everything, like Rajuji said, you cannot force it on them. You have to give a reasoning. You have to understand. They have to understand this. And when they see their other Indian kids around, when they meet other kids in the families or when we go out, they appreciate that, other kids are also trying to blend in. They're learning the values. So I'm not saying do puja every day, do shloks every day, but understand what our culture means. Don't ridicule it. So don't just say, oh, you're Indian. So if you don't feel good about yourself, others can make you feel down. So just respect it. Just understand where you come from. And I think that's how I'm going to probably continue. But as my kids will grow and I will know more, they have their own mind. They are very sharp these days. And I think that's trying to find the balance. I can't be just telling them, no, you have to wear this, you have to dress like this, you have to talk like this. It won't happen. And it won't be fair to them. So we need to give them area.
A set of clothes doesn't make an Indian. A set of shlokas or, pujas don't make us Indians. Our core values are important,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, I think that's what Neeharika we would say, but I'm sure you guys have a lot to discuss. You have a lot on your agenda, right?
Yeah, so you both bring up really great points. I want to give you both amazing credit for being able to understand. I know it must be hard to understand firsthand, and it's a lot of trial and error, but kudos to both of you. More power to both of you. So I really wanted to acknowledge that. So thank you so much for giving such an insightful um, response to that question.
No, thank you for asking. So I think with that, we will leave you guys to your amazing conversations. We will be plugged in. We will be listening to you. And I'm sure a lot of viewers are listening and getting inspired. With that, I would just add one more thing. August 19th, our Miss Universe is coming to Boston. And I want to see each one of you there. It's going to be an amazing event. And this is our reigning Miss Universe visiting Boston for the first time. So I request everyone to get your tickets and be there. Raju, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just want to add that's a great platform. It's a great honor to have the reigning Miss Universe come to Boston. So, guys, get your tickets. Come and join us and celebrate. And more to women empowerment, more to the youth platform that Neeharika is creating. Good luck, Neeharika, and
Thank you.
we'll let you continue. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good luck, Neeharika, Meghna.
Great.
Thank you.
You both
Bye.
so much. Today we're going to start with a quote from According to India Today about this topic that I found was pretty powerful. The quote is, popularly known as American-born confused Desis, ABCD, many Indian children brought up in the United States confront with familiar dilemma of being torn between two cultures, trying to adapt socially but looking foreign, burdened by the contradictory expectations of their Indian parents and American peers, uncertain of which heritage to claim as their own, and without a sense of belonging, they seem destined to the misfits in both cultures. For them, youth is often a time of crisis. So I found that quote really powerful because obviously it's a current issue with and a current crisis about how do we navigate in our American culture as a foreigner or as an Indian. And I think that's a big issue to have in the youth. And also it is a very big issue on how do we culturally identify ourselves. So Meghna, how do you culturally define yourself in the American society?
I think it often depends because let's say I'm at work and someone asks where I'm from. I never know if I should say, oh, I'm from Watertown or oh, I'm Indian. I don't exactly know what they're trying to ask me. But if an Indian person comes up to me and like, oh, where are you from? I know exactly what they're talking about. They want to hear where I'm from in India. They don't want to hear where I live here. They don't want to know anything else. They want to learn where I'm from in India. So I always think that there's this difference even in the same kind of space. It just depends on who you're talking to as well. And I totally agree with you. I agree with this quote as well. I feel like I'm still yet to strike the balance between my American self and my Indian self. So I think just depending on the situation, at the end of the day, I still consider myself to be Indian more than I consider myself to be an American. But I still think it depends on who I'm talking to at the time.
I think you bring a valid point. I have so much confusion on who am I? Like, am I American, 100% American, or 100% Indian, or 50-50? So I tend to confuse, like, no, I'm Hindu Punjabi, but like I'm also born in America. So I definitely understand the confusion that we all have. Driti, what are your thoughts on cultural identity?
I definitely agree with like everything you guys have said. I think I was reading this article like before this talk today, and we're in kind of like a weird space between like are we Indian or are we American? Like it's just completely like unprecedented. So it's kind of hard to sort of reconcile those two identities. Like I too have mostly thought of myself as Indian just because like that's where my family is from, and I just feel like more Indian. But I also recognize that I am American. Like I don't really know Hindi very well. I connect. I guess like I grew up surrounded by like American people in school. So it's sort of like this weird space you have to navigate and figure out, what parts of you are, relate more to the Indian culture and what parts of you relate more to the American culture.
Great. Yeah, I think it's important for us to stay connected to who we are today and feel proud that we're Indian. Like, we have Holi, we have Diwali. Like, how many people can say we throw colored powder in a holiday? I doubt that no one can. So I feel proud as being Indian, and I would not regret it, and I don't regret being another um, culture because I am truly proud of being Indian. And we do have some great food, great movies, great music. So I feel proud of it. So I think everyone that is an Indian American should also feel proud. However, society somehow is painting a picture that we need to be in American hobbies, like, oh, we all need to be football, basketball. Like, if you ask a typical American, like, what is cricket? They're not going to understand, oh, we don't know what cricket is. Is that an animal? Is that an insect? But no, it's an actual sport, which people don't understand. So Health Society is helping us to be connected to the Indian culture. Meghna, what are your thoughts on how is society doing a good job in being connected to the Indian culture?
I think it depends on where you are. For example, my high school was not very Indian. There was only 3 or 4 of us. So we would speak in Hindi sometimes, but not always, because we know that there's people watching us and they think that we're saying things about them. So I'm not really sure, I feel. I'm just like still trying to navigate that, I feel.
Yeah, same here. Driti, do you have any
Yeah, I was, lucky enough to grow up in a town where there are actually quite a lot of Indians in my high school, but we sort of had like our own little culture in a sense. Like a lot of the Indians like who were in my class, like they were family friends, so I would see them at like Gurba or like, Diwali or other like celebrations around, and that was just like I guess I hung out with a lot of them too, so it was kind of like its own subculture in a way. So I think it really depends on where you grow up.
Yeah, I think that is a valid point. For me, I was fortunate enough to be brought up in an Indian community that had a lot of organizations such as United India Association, Indians Association of Greater Boston. So those organizations helped me connect on the cultural aspect of things, as well as I also did Sunday school at Chinmaya Marthi Center in Andover. So I was able to understand the cultural background and also how to speak Hindi and all, because I feel like learning Hindi is so important in today's culture. Also, I went to Boston University, and you could quote unquote say it was like mini India. Like they had BU India Club, BU Hindu Student Council, where they would hold events like Garba, Holi, Diwali, and all that stuff. And they also had multiple dance teams. There was a classical dance team, a Bhangra dance team, a co-ed Bollywood dance team, even an all-girls too. So we all celebrated in that way. And also, their BU just introduced a class called Indian cinema, which talks about the academic perspective of Indian film. Actually, that's how Megan and I met. So, Megan, do you want to tell about that class as well?
Yes, I think that was the first class where almost everybody there was Indian, and it was the first time I felt seen, because in my other classes, I just don't really feel like I connect to people as much as I do with someone who is also Indian. So I feel like that was a real eye opener that there's other people here that are like me and that share similar experiences to me.
Great. And Driti, do you want to explain something about how Northeastern has kept you connected?
Yeah, so actually freshman and sophomore year, I was part of a Ras Gurba team, and that was really fun because, I love doing Gurba and Dandiya, and that was just such a fun way to kind of connect back to that, because we would have like a Gurba every year where I live, and that was like one of my favorite events of the year because you got to like see all your friends and like dress up really nice and, eat really good food. So it was just a really fun time, and it was really nice to be able to go back to Northeastern and still like sort of bring that over with me.
Great, yeah, I think this is so important to also bring it in a college level as well. Also, on Facebook, I was able to join events or join groups that were meant for like India's in Boston, India's in New England, Indian food groups that allowed me to understand how to cook Indian food. And also there is a Facebook group called Little Brown Diary, which talks about how Indians have such a struggle of being here, and we're creating a sense of community with that group as well. Also with my organization too, I'm trying to understand how we all can network in a professional sense and stay also in touch with our culture as well. So I think it's really important how society is bringing the understanding, like, yes, we're Indian, we're from India. That's like one of the biggest countries in the world. So I think society is doing a good job in doing that, but I think there should be more of a push to possibly bring Diwali as a national holiday. That would be really cool, because I remember in college, my mom and dad, we always do puja, and there's always an event that happens on Diwali day. And I had to email professor saying, "Oh, sorry, I can't come to class. It's Diwali." And sometimes they would respond to me saying, "What is Diwali?" So I would have to explain the whole cultural background of what Diwali is. And then the professors were saying, "Oh, wow, we're surprised that this is not in American culture." And I said, "Same here, but I definitely want to push this into the federal government, the national government, to say, hey, Diwali exists, Indian people exist, like, make us a national holiday." So that's what I think society should do in order to push it further in the future. However, as an American-born Indian, we do face the language barrier issues both in India as well as in America. Meghna, do you want to explain your experience with that?
Yes, I speak Hindi and Punjabi, and I mostly speak in Hindi with my parents. And to me, I think I speak perfect Hindi. But 2 months ago, when I went to India, I spoke in Hindi with with my grandparents, and everybody else around me, and they would make fun of my Hindi. So my pronunciation, anything I would say wrong, they would just immediately grasp that and stay on that point for the rest of my time there. They would be like, "Oh, remember when you said that? That wasn't right. Remember when you said that? That wasn't right either." And they would just constantly make fun of me and be like, "Oh, because you're American, you can't speak Hindi." And I was like, "At least you're understanding what I'm saying, and at least I'm trying to communicate to you." But they would just keep mocking me and making fun of me and trying to speak in like an American accent, because that's what they think I sounded like, which I still am not sure about. But I do feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect about the perception of Indian Americans and Indians living in India, about how much we both understand each other and how well we understand the language as well.
Yeah, I think that is a common crisis to have. Driti, do you want to explain your experience with language barriers?
Yeah, so I definitely have much more of a language barrier. I learned Hindi growing up, but I didn't speak it at home really. So I can kind of understand Hindi, but I can't speak it. Like, my mom is from Maharashtra, so whenever we go and visit her family, everyone speaks Marathi. I don't understand it. And so there's definitely a really big disconnect between me and some members of my family, because, I feel kind of bad. Like, they have to speak English to me just because I can't understand Marathi. And there's definitely it is kind of hard to relate sometimes, just because I am sort of not, I can't speak Marathi, or I can't understand all of the conversations. And that's also the case with my grandmother. So my dad's mother like speaks mostly in Tamil, and so it's kind of hard for us to like have conversations, because she is not very comfortable with English and I don't know any Tamil. And I think my accent is also like an American accent, so she has, some trouble understanding that as well. So definitely I feel that language barrier divide when I go to India.
I think that is a very big issue. For my experience, when I talk in Hindi in India, my family makes fun of me. They're like, "Oh, we can't understand your American accent." And I'm like, "I'm speaking Hindi. Like, I've tried to understand, because, like, obviously we had Hindi classes here, but obviously I didn't have like firsthand experience with Hindi." I remember this one time when I was like younger, around 9 or 10. My parents and I, along with my mom's side of the family, we all went to this temple in Jammu, and obviously with my parents having still a little bit of an Indian accent, they can still pull through as an Indian. But when I opened my mouth and asking my mom, "Oh, can I go to the helicopter, or can I go into the bathroom?" The person that was handling the helicopter tickets, because we needed a helicopter ride to go from one spot to another to the temple, they immediately put 2 more zeros on the ticket just because I was a foreigner. Like, I got so mad. My uncle got so mad. My Masaji is one of the renowned cancer specialists in India, so he has a lot of government connections. And using that, they still were able to cheat on us just because of my American accent. Like, that shouldn't be a thing. Like, Indians in India should understand, yes, there are other Indians that are born in other countries as well. I also think, like, going into Boston University, when I was trying to speak in Hindi, my friends that were Indians from India, they were like, "Oh, like you have such an American accent, you're such a foreigner, like all that," and they would like make fun of me, and I'm like, I'm trying my hardest to be able to be an Indian per se. Also, I think that Bollywood movies that have subtitles are such a big blessing because a lot of people that are that are American born Indians, they don't understand Hindi. So that's why subtitles play such a powerful tool so that we can be able to conquer the language barrier. But it is cool. I was able to watch a movie fully without subtitles. So I was pretty proud of myself when my mom was like, "No, you need to be able to do this." And I'm like, "Yes, I will, don't worry." But yeah, I do definitely think that there is a language barrier and there's so much dialects like Punjabi, Telugu, Tamil, Gujarati that people are not able to understand each other. Like northern people won't be able to understand southern people. So I definitely think there should be a universal language, which obviously is Sanskrit, Hindi. But I think language barrier is such a big issue, both in the American culture and also from India as well. Talking about movies, I know there's a huge Western representation of Indians in the Western social media and in media as well. Driti, do you want to explain about what are your values and thoughts of Western representation of Indian culture?
Yeah, so I definitely think that Western media needs to do better when it comes to Indian representation because I can literally count on like one hand the amount of movies or TV shows I've seen that have like a South Asian character, period, and let alone main character. And I guess the show that I'm mainly thinking about here is Never Have I Ever, which is sort of the first show I've ever seen that sort of talks about like first generation Indian Americans and kind of like their struggles in navigating identity and culture and things like that. And I think, that show does a pretty good job at representation, but it could also be improved upon certain aspects of it. But it is kind of like the only show that we have as like first generation Indian Americans to have like a main character to relate to. So I am definitely really happy that there's starting to be more TV shows and movies that are about our stories, but I really think that there has to be a push for more of them.
I definitely agree with you on that. Meghna, do you want to explain what your thoughts are on Western representation?
This is not so much Western representation because I think that they did a good job covering it. When I think about Indian representing Americans, or let's say people from London or things like that, I think about Namaste London. And I know that in the movie, the main character, she's Indian, but she was born in London. So everyone's like, oh, because she drinks, she parties, she smokes, she's not Indian at all. She doesn't represent anything Indian, remotely Indian. She can't speak Hindi. She doesn't deserve to be called Indian. She's completely white, even though she's Indian at heart, which I think doesn't make sense because I feel like Indians have isolated Americans and Indian Americans so much that I think that we're no longer part of the same culture, even though we are. And I think this is also highly problematic as well. And I think that is something that is still needs to be changed as long as Upi said, like with American representation of Indians is also problematic. I think that American representation of Indians is problematic, and Indian representation of American Indians is also problematic.
Yes, I do agree with that. I think there is a big expansion on Indian culture in American films, like Bridgerton. I know Brown TikTok like was so like being the biggest cheerleader. Oh my God, we finally got into Netflix. We're Never Have I Ever. That's also another show that people were like, oh wow, we're being seen and heard. Also, I think in a more other experiences, English paints a really good job because Sri Devi, the actor, was portraying a role on coming to America but not able to speak American, so she had to go behind her family to get the English classes, and that was really powerful, like the amount of cultural divide there is for language. Also, I think that um, there's a whole divide between North India and South India as well, like two states, for example. I know this is not too much of a language barrier, but there was a Tamilian girl marrying a Punjabi boy, and you could see the divide between North and South, and oh, they're speaking Punjabi, oh, they're speaking Tamilian. Like, that was also another divide. So I think there's a divide both in the North and South regions of India, as well as even being an American here. I know Hassan Minhaj gives a lot of comedian um, plays it in a very comedian way of how people here don't understand how to speak Hindi or stuff like that. So I think there's a big representation on in Netflix as well. Also in social media, like there's brown TikTok. Brown TikTok is increasing. Like there's a lot of brown influencers that are trying to break barriers to bring an awareness and on South Asian American community. So I think that we're having a big expansion on that, and I'm excited to see where it takes us. So I wanted to bring up the term ABCD because I know, or being a coconut per se, that is a big term that we have, American born confused DC, but a lot of people say we're American born confident DC, and I do agree with that. So I just wanted to give a little bit of a background on what ABC, how it brought to term. So it has been quite frequently used in today's culture, and it was appeared in the 2001 film American Daisy. The ABCD label became a cultural phenomenon and also an inside joke for sorts. And we as first generation Indians, we do feel confused. We don't know how to navigate the American culture as an Indian. So, Meghna, what are your thoughts on the term ABCD, or being a coconut, meaning brown on the outside, white on the inside?
I'll talk about the first time I encountered this term. I think I was 10 and it was my first visit to India. And my cousin was like, "You're an ABCD." And I was like, "Are you talking about the alphabet? What are you talking about?" I like didn't understand what he was talking about. He's like, "Exactly. That's what I mean. You don't understand Hindi. You don't understand Punjabi. You don't understand anything around you." And I was like, even though I might not speak Hindi as fluently as you do or Punjabi as fluent as you do, I still understand it. And I do feel some connection to in my Indian culture and identity. Yet I'm still considered to be so far away from my identity and from my culture that they think that I am completely American and I don't deserve to be called Indian at all. And I think about like 3 weeks ago, I went out to dinner with one of my friends. She's an Indian international student, and she brought one of her other friends along. And the first thing she said to me was ABCD. I was just like, I don't understand how she could tell. Maybe it was the way I was speaking or anything, but I feel like there's definitely a negative connotation to that. And I definitely agree with you. I think it should be American born confident Desi instead of confused Desi.
Great. Driti, do you have an experience with ABCD term?
I actually only heard of the term ABCD like literally like a year ago from my brother or something. And yeah, I know that's like kind of embarrassing, but I was like, I had no idea what that term meant or anything. And I definitely, do personally feel like I am kind of straddling this weird divide between like my Indian culture and my like my American upbringing, because I don't speak the language. I have like an accent and everything, and so I definitely sometimes do feel confused about that. But I really like the term American-born confident they see, because we have to sort of navigate through a lot and figure out a lot about who we are, and in the end we end up emerging confident once we figure that out. So
Yes, I do agree with that. I know my family in India, they're probably watching right now, but they call me ABCD all the time, and I'm like, Masi, Masi, I'm not confused. Like, I know what I want. Like, I love my paneer, I love my chicken tikka masala. So, like, I understand being an Indian, but obviously there's a confusion. Like, oh, like, if I'm too involved with the Indian society here, how do I make myself more apparent in the American culture? How do I break that barrier? So I also had a big issue. Like, I was an equal youth leader, but I know that with equal youth leader, Equal Vidyalaya is an organization that brings education to kids in India. So I also told people like, oh, I'm an equal youth leader, but my American friends, they were like, what is equal? What is the term equal? What is Vidyalaya? Like, they had no idea what it was, so I had to explain it to them. So being an ABCD is very confusing, but if we educate people, if we educate the American culture, the Chinese culture, the Europeans, all the other cultures, I feel like that would be more empowering to ourselves and would make us feel more confident in how we guide into today's culture as well. I know that we as Indians have to deal with so much success and our parents constantly bringing us the point, like the comparisons, the success that we need to be either a doctor, engineer, lawyer. I know my parents put me into Russian School of Math, which I was really grateful for at the time because that helped me a lot with my standardized testing. But I know there is a big push on Indian success. Meghna, do you have any experiences about Indian success in America?
Sometimes I remember whenever I used to get a grade back, my peers would always want to see what I got. And if I were to get slightly lower than them, they'd be like, "Oh, why? Why'd you get lower? You're Indian. You should have the highest score. You should have the highest grade. What are you doing wrong? What am I doing right?" And then it was always like, just because I'm Indian does not mean I have to be the smartest in the room. And I feel like there was this unfair pressure and expectation on me because I was Indian, which is out of my control where I was born and who I'm born to. But I do feel like there is this unspoken pressure, and people just have these stereotypes that they constantly put on you. And I think it's high time people understand that you can be American and you can be Indian, and there's a balance.
Great. I think that is really true. Driti, do you have an experience with Indian success in America?
Yeah, so I definitely feel like, especially as Indians, like, I know as much as it is a stereotype, like, we are sort of pushed more into like STEM fields and kind of, pushed away from like the arts, like, writing or fine art or like humanities or stuff like that. And for 11th grade, I went to this STEM school called Mass Academy for a little while. So I went for like 2 months or so. And it was a very like STEM heavy curriculum. Like, you had to take like physics and math, and like you have to do a science fair project and all of that stuff. And I really just did not like it very much. Like, I didn't feel like it was the kind of education that I wanted. But I did sort of feel a little bit of pressure to succeed there, just because, my brother went there, and it was kind of, it was like very popular for like Indian students to go there and stuff. And so I definitely felt that pressure to succeed there, even though I didn't really like it very much. So I think we definitely have to start, encouraging Indian kids to follow their passion and not necessarily go into what has been deemed like the acceptable careers or life paths. And we sort of have to break those, barriers or like norms.
I think that is a great idea. A great idea what you bring up. We shouldn't be focused on the STEM side of things. I think if you want to be an actor and you're very passionate about it, I think it's important to be able to do what you love rather than doing something that you're forced on. I think that is a great opportunity for people to understand that we as Indians, we get it. Like, we have like all these big CEOs, like Parag Agarwal is taking over as CEO of Twitter, and even Elon Musk tweeted out on Twitter, saying USA benefits greatly from Indian talent. I think that is a great tweet. I mean, thank you, Elon. But I think that we as Indians should feel that it is not necessarily needed to be a doctor, to be an engineer, to be a lawyer. Like, it is okay to have Indian actors in the Hollywood field, or even if someone wants to do theater, want to do arts. I think that is really important in today's culture, is to do what you love. You don't want to do something that you don't, because then if you don't do whatever you like, then you might not be as successful as if you were more passionate about something other than that. I know there's a big emphasis on Kumon, Russian math, and all, but it's up to the kid to understand what they want in their life. Parents can only provide you the foundation, but it is up to the kid to grow to make themselves who they are today. So, Meghna, do you have any other stories you want to share about being an Indian in America?
I would honestly just say that you should stay true to yourself, and you should be who you are, accept both identities, or how many ever identities that you have. And I don't think it's something to be ashamed of. And just be proud of yourself is what I would say.
Yes, I do agree with that. Driti, do you have any closing words you want to say about being an Indian in America?
Honestly, like the same as Meghna, like, you gotta, do what you love. And obviously, it is, personally, I found I love staying connected to my culture. I love, going to cultural events and eating Indian food and just, kind of, and trying to find an Indian community wherever I go. And I think that is really important, to find people who understand your experiences and understand your culture. And I think the biggest thing is, like Meghna said, stay true to yourself, do what you love, even if it's not like, the conventional path, so to speak. It's really important to, be yourself. And yeah.
I think those are really great closing words. I know that we're going to have multiple other shows. The next topic we're going to do is mental health in the Indian community, because I feel like that's a very important topic to have. And we would all love to see you on the August 19th event. I know it's been a really cool experience to have the reigning Miss Universe to come to Boston in our home. So we would love to have all of you come to the event. You can definitely feel free to reach out to Raj Uncle, Mukta Auntie, Raju Auntie, or even me about tickets and all the event details. But we would love to have you. It's on Foxborough, 7 p.m. and it's in Ambrosia, and Miss Universe will be there, so you can definitely have your pictures taken or whatnot. So we would love to have you all on board, and we would love to, if anyone has anyone that they want like to join the youth club, as far as youth club, they can always reach out to me, and I can always explain it to them. So thank you so much for joining in for our first talk. We are so happy that this talk is going to encourage youth and empower them, and to take the Indian platform into a next level. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day. And thank you, Driti and Meghna, for being on this talk.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.